Hi, my name is Lily, and I'm 29. I've been living in Willowbrook, a small, quiet town where everyone knows everyone else's business. I work as a bookkeeper at a small firm downtown, keeping track of numbers and invoices. But I've always kept to myself. My life is simple. I'm used to routine: wake up, go to work, come home, cook dinner, and spend my evenings curled up with a good book or watching old movies. It's comfortable. I've learned to find solace in the little things. I've always been the type of person who doesn't make waves or demand attention. But all that changed the day Liam walked into my life. I was just 18 when I first met him. We were in college, both studying in the same creative writing class. He wasn't like the other students, where everyone else was trying to impress the professor with their ideas. Liam had this quiet, unassuming presence about him. He didn't need to be loud to be noticed. His words, when he did speak, carried weight. There was a depth to him that drew me in without him even trying. I was never one to open up easily, but with Liam, everything felt natural. We'd sit together in the small coffee shop near campus, sipping our lattes and talking about everything and nothing. I loved the way his mind worked, how he could talk about the world so vividly, yet make it seem so real. He had a way of seeing beauty in the small things, the way sunlight streamed through a cafe window, how the sound of rain on rooftops could calm your mind. He made me want to see the world differently, to pay attention to the details I'd always overlooked. We started spending more and more time together, and though we were never officially dating, I always felt like there was something between us. A bond that didn't need words, but was there in every shared glance, every lingering touch. But I was too afraid to say anything, to acknowledge the feelings that had been quietly growing inside me. He was my best friend. I couldn't risk ruining that one evening, after we had finished our last finals. We sat together on the steps outside of the library. The night was warm for late spring, and the campus was nearly deserted, save for a few stragglers finishing up their late-night studying. I had just finished telling Liam about my plans to move back to Willowbrook after graduation, and the reality of the future was starting to set in. "So what are you going to do?" Liam asked, turning toward me with a thoughtful expression on his face. "Where will you go from here?" I paused for a moment, unsure of how to explain the truth. The truth that I didn't want to leave. That part of me wanted to stay in this little bubble with Liam forever. But I couldn't. I had responsibilities, and Willowbrook needed me. My parents were gone, and the town was relying on me to help take care of things. "I'm going home," I said softly. "Back to Willowbrook. I'm not really sure what comes next, but I guess I'll figure it out." Liam nodded, his eyes softening. As he looked at me, "You've always known what you needed to do, Lily. You've got a good head on your shoulders." But I could tell something was different. His gaze lingered on me longer than usual, and there was an emotion in his eyes that I couldn't quite place. "I'll miss you," he said after a long pause, his voice quiet but sincere. His words hung in the air between us, and I realized then that he wasn't just talking about the time we'd spent in college together. He was talking about something more. "I'll miss you too," I whispered, my heart thudding painfully in my chest. But I didn't say anything else. I didn't want to ruin the moment. I didn't want to face the truth that I had spent years developing feelings for him. Feelings I knew would never be returned. I had convinced myself that our friendship was enough. Liam shifted uncomfortably beside me, and I realized he was trying to find the right words. "Lily," he began, but then paused, taking a deep breath. "I don't know if you'll ever understand this, but I don't know how to keep living this way. I don't know how to keep pretending like I don't care about you more than I should." My heart skipped a beat. I looked at him, trying to read the expression on his face. Was he confessing something? Was this the moment I had been waiting? 4. But then, he seemed to close himself off again, looking down at the ground. I think I need to figure things out on my own. I don't want to hurt you. And I know that staying around will only make it harder. The words hit me like a slap. He didn't want to be with me. I had always known, deep down, that he saw me only as a friend. But hearing him actually say it, felt like the breath had been knocked out of me. Double quotes. I understand, I said quietly, swallowing the lump in my throat. For a moment there was silence. Liam didn't speak. I didn't speak. We just sat there, under the dimming sky, feeling the weight of everything unsaid, hanging between us. He was leaving. He was going to pursue his dreams. And I was going to be stuck here, in a town that felt like it was slowly suffocating me. I wanted to tell him that I loved him, that I always had, but the words wouldn't come. It wasn't just that I was afraid. I was afraid of the truth. I was afraid that if I said it, it would be the end. And so, I said nothing. I simply stood up, brushing off my jeans, and smiled at him, a smile that didn't reach my eyes. I should go, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Lily, Liam said, standing up too, his voice urgent, like he wanted to say something. But I didn't give him the chance. I'll see you around, Liam, I said, forcing a smile as I turned and walked away, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the silence. I walked back to my dorm room that night, my heart aching with the realization that Liam would never be mine. The best part of me had always belonged to him, but I was never going to be the one he chose. The weeks after Liam left for the city were the hardest I had ever experienced. I kept myself busy, filling the silence of my empty apartment with work, keeping my mind occupied so I wouldn't think about him. It worked for a while, but the emptiness never really went away. There were nights when I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I had made a mistake. Maybe if I had told him how I felt, if I had confessed my love, he would have stayed. But that wasn't something I could go back and change. He was gone, and I had to learn how to live without him. It wasn't until months later that I received a message from Liam. It was a simple text, just to check in. Hey Lily, how have you been? It's been a while. I stared at the message for a long time, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. What did he want? Why was he reaching out now? After all this time? Had he been thinking about me? Was he regretting his decision? I took a deep breath before typing my reply. I'm good. Things have been busy, but I'm okay. How about you? The message was short, and I hated myself for holding back. I wanted to tell him everything. How much I had missed him. How much I had been hurting. But I knew better now. I had to protect myself. The conversation continued for a few more days. But it was clear that Liam had moved on. He was busy with his new life, his career, and the distance between us felt even more pronounced with every message. It hurt to admit, but I had to let go. He had chosen his path, and it didn't include me. The weeks following Liam's departure were some of the loneliest of my life. Despite being surrounded by friends and family, I felt like an outsider in my own world. It wasn't the town I had grown up in anymore. It felt foreign, suffocating in its silence. I could barely concentrate on my work. The numbers blurred together, and my mind constantly drifted back to the conversations I'd had with Liam, the unspoken words that haunted me at night. I tried to keep myself busy catching up with old friends, spending time with my sister, and filling my evenings with books or Netflix shows. But nothing seemed to distract me from the absence he had left behind. The world felt like it had moved on without me. And there I was, stuck in a cycle of longing and self-pity. Every now and then, I would see something that reminded me of him. The sound of a song we used to listen to, a photograph we'd taken together at a school event, or a random text message from someone talking about the art exhibits Liam had once dreamed of hosting. These little things hit me hard, the memories flooding back with a force I wasn't prepared for. It was like he was everywhere and nowhere all at once. And no matter how hard I tried to push these thoughts away, they kept creeping back in. But life kept moving forward. I had to. Willowbrook needed me. The clients I worked with depended on me to keep their finances in check. And I couldn't let my emotions interfere with that. I buried my feelings as deep as I could. Buried the longing. Buried the heartbreak. And pretended to be fine. Then, one day I got a message from him. It was a simple text, one I never expected. I had always imagined that Liam would be too busy with his life in the city to reach out. But here it was, his name lighting up my phone screen. "Hey Lily, how have you been?" "It's been a while." I stared at the screen for a long time, my heart racing, my breath caught in my throat. What was he doing reaching out now? Did he want to apologize? Did he miss me too? Or was this just a casual message to check in? A way of erasing the past? I didn't know what I expected, but I certainly wasn't prepared for how emotional the simple text made me feel. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I debated how to respond. Do I say everything I've kept hidden? Do I tell him how much I've missed him? Or do I keep it light? Pretend that everything's fine? I had no idea what he wanted, but I couldn't bring myself to ignore the message. After a long moment of hesitation, I typed out my response. "I'm good. Things have been busy, but I'm okay. How about you?" It wasn't much, but it was enough. It was polite. I didn't want him to think that I had been waiting for this moment, waiting for him to come back into my life. I wasn't sure if I was ready to talk about everything, but I knew I couldn't pretend that nothing had happened between us. The conversation, Liam's response came almost immediately. "I've been good. Been busy with work. But I'm settling in. It's a lot different here than I expected. Still trying to get used to everything, I guess." His words were casual, but there was an undercurrent to them. Something raw. Something uncertain. I couldn't tell if it was just a normal response or if he was hinting at something deeper. I stared at my phone again, waiting for more. He followed up with another message a little later. "You've probably moved on by now, huh? It's been a while since we last talked. I just wanted to check in, see how you're doing." I could almost hear the hesitation in his words. He was nervous, unsure of how to proceed. And just like that, all the emotions I had pushed down over the past few months rushed back to the surface. I could feel the ache in my chest as I thought about how much I still cared about him, how much I had wanted to be there for him when he left. I didn't want to come off as desperate, but I couldn't pretend like I had moved on. I hadn't. I didn't know how to move on when the one person I had truly cared for had walked out of my life without so much as a proper goodbye. I typed back, my fingers trembling slightly as I pressed the words into the phone. "I haven't moved on, Liam. I've been busy, sure, but it's not the same." There was a long pause before he responded. I held my breath, staring at the 3 dots as they appeared, then disappeared. When the message finally came through, it was short, but it carried so much weight. "I'm sorry, Lily. I never meant to hurt you. I didn't know what I was doing, and I think I left without really understanding what we had." His words were like a punch to the gut. The raw honesty in them hit me hard. But as much as it hurt, I needed to hear it. I needed to hear him acknowledge the mess we had both created. He had left without closure, and I had spent months wondering why. I stared at the message, my mind racing. I wanted to ask him why he hadn't fought for us, why he had left so easily. But I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I simply responded, "It's okay, Liam. I've had time to think about everything. I just wish things had been different. There was no response for a long time, and for a moment, I wondered if that would be the end of our conversation. But then, he sent another message. I don't know how to make it right, Lily, but I'm here. I've been thinking about you a lot, about US. I never should have left. His words hung in the air between us, and for the first time since that painful night, I felt a small flicker of hope. It wasn't that I was ready to forgive him completely, but hearing him admit he was wrong, hearing him acknowledge the past, made me realize that maybe we could still find a way back to each other. A hard decision. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions. I tried to push the thoughts of Liam out of my mind, but they were always there, hovering in the back of my thoughts. I wondered if it was too late to fix what had been broken, if we could ever go back to what we had, or if too much time had passed, too much damage done. Liam's texts became more frequent, and with each one, the hope inside me grew. He wanted to fix things, wanted to make amends, but I was still scared. I had been hurt by him, and I didn't know if I could let him back into my life. But one thing was certain: he had broken my heart. And now, in some strange way, he was teaching me how to love again. To trust, to believe, and to hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find a way to heal the wounds we had both caused. As I stared at my phone one evening, Liam's message lit up the screen. I don't want to keep you waiting, Lily. I'm ready if you are. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was ready too. The days that followed Liam's message felt like I was walking through a fog, caught between the past and the present, unsure of which direction to take. Every time I picked up my phone, I saw his name flashing on the screen, and each time, my heart fluttered, unsure whether to embrace it or retreat back to safety. I had spent so many months convincing myself that I was fine without him, that I didn't need him. But now, as I stood on the edge of what could be the beginning of something new, I found myself paralyzed by fear. Could I really trust him again? Could I allow myself to be vulnerable and open to the possibility of a second chance? It was Saturday afternoon when I finally decided to take a leap. I had spent the morning pacing my apartment, trying to quiet my mind. The stillness was suffocating, and I knew that if I didn't act soon, I would lose the courage to take that first step. I had already read Liam's messages a dozen times over, trying to convince myself that I wasn't just holding on to old hopes. But now it was time. I picked up my phone, my fingers trembling as I typed a simple message. I'm ready, Liam. Let's meet. Within seconds, his reply came through, and it was almost instantaneous, like he had been waiting for this moment just as much as I had. Where and when? We decided to meet at a small park by the lake. It was the kind of place we used to go when we were younger, sitting on the grass and talking for hours, watching the sunset and the stars come out. It felt fitting, a place filled with memories, but also one where we could create new ones. The moment I arrived at the park, I could already see Liam standing near the edge of the lake, his hands tucked in the pockets of his jacket. He looked the same, but different. The Liam I had known all those years ago had been carefree and full of life, but now there was a quiet intensity in his gaze, a weight to his presence. I felt a lump form in my throat as I approached him, my heart pounding louder than it ever had before. He turned when he heard my footsteps, and for a second, I saw that same hesitation in his eyes, the same vulnerability that had been there the night he left. But then, his face softened, and he gave me a small, genuine smile that made my breath catch. Lily, he said softly, his voice full of emotion. You look incredible. I smiled faintly, feeling a rush of warmth at his words, but I couldn't help but notice the tension in the air between us. We had both changed, but there was something undeniable about the connection we still shared. It was as if time hadn't erased the bond between us. Instead, it had deepened it. I didn't know what to expect, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. But it's good to see you, Liam. It's been a long time. I know. He sighed, his voice thick with emotion. I didn't know if I'd ever get the chance to see you again. I didn't think you'd want to after everything I put you through. I took a deep breath and stepped closer to him, the cool breeze gently tugging at my hair. There was a rawness in his words that struck me, and I knew this was the moment we needed to have this conversation, the one that would finally address everything that had been left unsaid for so long. I never stopped caring about you, Liam, I said quietly. I was hurt, but I never stopped loving you. I think I was just too afraid to admit that to myself, to you, or to anyone. Liam's eyes softened, and he reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair behind my ear, his fingers lingering on my skin. I'm sorry, Lily. I never should have left without explaining. I thought leaving would be easier, but it wasn't. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. I closed my eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of his words. The pain, the regret, the love, all of it came rushing back. I wanted to be angry, to yell at him for leaving without a word, for making me question everything we had. But as I looked into his eyes, I realized that all I wanted was for him to stay, for us to find our way back to what we once had. I don't know if I can just forget everything that happened, I admitted, my voice trembling. I don't know how we can pick up the pieces after all this time, but I want to try. I want to see where this goes. Liam stepped closer, his hand gently cupping my cheek, his thumb brushing over my skin. I don't want to forget, Lily. I don't want to pretend that nothing happened. But I want to rebuild with you, slowly, step by step. We can't undo the past, but we can build something better in its place. I nodded, the tears I had been holding back threatening to spill over. I had spent so much time convincing myself that I didn't need him, that I didn't want him back in my life. That here, in this moment, everything felt right. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but we had already fought so hard for each other in the past, and maybe that was enough to give us the strength to try again. A new beginning. We spent the afternoon walking along the lake, talking about everything and nothing at all. For the first time in so long, I felt like I could breathe. The walls I had built around myself for so many years were slowly coming down, and I was allowing myself to be vulnerable, to trust him again. We talked about our lives since we'd parted ways, our work, our friends, the things we had learned about ourselves. It felt like we were finding pieces of each other we hadn't realized were missing dot as the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over the water. We found a spot on the grass and sat down, our shoulders brushing. There was an easy silence between us, comfortable and familiar, like no time had passed at all. I felt his hand find mine, and I didn't hesitate to hold it. It was simple, but it was everything I had been waiting for. I never meant to hurt you, Lily, Liam said, quietly breaking the silence. I don't want to lose you again. You haven't lost me, I whispered back, squeezing his hand. I just needed to know that you were here, that you really wanted this too. I needed to know that you were willing to fight for us. I'll fight for you, Lily. I'll fight for us. For as long as you'll let me. And in that moment, I realized that we didn't need grand gestures or sweeping declarations. All we needed was the simple truth. We were here, together, and we were willing to fight for each other. Slowly but surely we would rebuild the love we had lost dot as the evening sky darkened, and the stars began to twinkle above us. I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. The past was still there, but we were ready to move forward. Together. A new chapter the following weeks were a delicate balancing act. We spent more time together, exploring this new version of our relationship. We talked more openly about the mistakes we had made, the things we needed to work on, and the love that was still there, buried under the years of pain and silence. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't always perfect, but it felt real. It felt right. Liam took things slow, respecting my need for time and space. He never pushed me to forgive him all at once. That he showed me, every day, that he was committed to making things work. He would leave small notes for me, just simple reminders that he was thinking of me. We'd have long phone calls after work, just talking about our day, making each other laugh. Slowly but surely, we were building the foundation of something new, something stronger. One night, a few months later, as we stood in front of my apartment building, Liam took both of my hands in his and looked into my eyes. His expression was serious, but there was a warmth in his gaze that made my heart flutter. "I've been thinking a lot about us, Lily," he said softly. "And I know I can't change what happened, but I want you to know that I love you. I always have, and I always will." My heart skipped a beat, and I smiled, feeling a rush of emotion. "I love you too, Liam. I always have." We didn't need to say anything more. In that moment, it felt like the universe had finally aligned, and we were exactly where we were supposed to be. And so, we began again one day, one step at a time, but this time with no more hesitation, no more fears. We never needed to say "I love you" again. We always knew